Praise the Lord. Now I knew your mom. She was quite a saint.
She really was.
Yeah, she just had such love. Mary Lee Kniffen.
Yeah, my mom and dad. All the things I've said about them were true. It was like an Ozzie and Harriet growing up.
Yeah.
But when I graduated college, it was 1972. About that time,
you were a music major, right?
Yeah, I was a music major, and I went on to be a band director for a while.
Mm-hmm.
In that time, when we got married, 1972, my dad's dream was to have a farm. He was born and raised on a farm, and he was. His parents moved to town. His parents never owned a farm, but they rented farm. They would have been, we would call them, maybe if in the South you'd have called them sharecroppers, maybe.
Yeah, right.
That's really what. Really what they were. And for whatever reason, they moved to town when my dad began his freshman year, and so he went to a school called Parker Settlement.
Okay.
Between Evansville and New Harmony. He graduated 8th grade from a one-room school. Then he moved to Evansville, and at the end of his street is the front of Benjamin Bossy High School. This magnificent, and can you imagine?
Culture shock.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah. And so, anyway, in that, his dream was always to get back to that farm.
Yeah.
And honestly, it was not a dream that my mom shared.
Yeah.
And when Dad was able to get a farm, that was really, I think, I don't know what they'd say, but I think it was maybe the beginning of the end, a split, because it was Dad's dream come true, and it was not for my mom. And so anyway, a few years went by, and they divorced.
Yeah.
And my dad remarried first.
That must have been so painful for you.
Oh, it was
for them to be divorced.
I mean, I was an adult then. I mean, I was over 21. I was teaching school. I was a high school band director. I was married.
Yeah.
I'd settled down some. I was still an idiot. I mean, I still raced motorcycles and did crazy things and drank too much and had a foul mouth. But I'd grown up some.
Right.
But it was devastating to me. And then when the time came, I won't talk about the dark things or the hard things, but when the time came that my mother found a companion, it was one of the hardest things for me, because to think that my mom was going to be another man's wife is just, I just was having a lot of trouble.
Right.
And my mama asked me to sing in her wedding. Now, I was a musician, not a vocalist. I was an instrumentalist. But I'd sung some. And my mama wanted me to sing in her wedding. And when your mama wants you to sing at your wedding, I said, sure. And she said she'd had a song on her heart. My mom had come to the Lord. And the man that she was about to marry, when they first met, he was not a Christian. And I'm backing up in the story a little bit, but Bob himself, the man himself, told me. He said when he first started seeing my mom, he said to himself, he's not a Christian, but he said, Lord, I really like her a lot. Just one thing that's a little bit wrong is that it seemed like she's a little too religious. Yeah. And he felt like the Lord spoke to him and said, that's not the way it is. It's you that's not religious enough. It's hard to imagine Jesus saying it like that, but that's how he.
Yeah.
So they date some, and I'm uncomfortable. Any man, a Superman wouldn't have been good enough for my mama, and so
sure.
And so anyway, they come to the time, and they're dating some, and I don't think that they had thought it was really as serious as it really was. And I always called him my Bob. I couldn't call him my stepdad. I wasn't about to call him by his first name, so I just always called him my Bob.
Right.
My Bob, he wasn't a man of means. He managed coin car washes. He didn't own anything, but he went around, took out the quarters, cleaned up the mud, made it nice, emptied the trash cans. He had about 3 or 4 of them every day that he'd make that. So one of them was in Kentucky, and he was going down the highway, And before let me back up.
That's right.
That morning, he was shaving. Now, you just have to know Bob.
Yeah.
Bob was the simplest man I ever knew. I'm not saying he was simple. I'm saying he was transparent.
Yeah.
It's a better word.
Yeah.
Bob, and childlike. Great big man, great big head. Bob was shaving in the mirror, and this is Bob's story later. He said, I was shaving. He said, now Jesus, he always said Jesus was about that long when he said it.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. I wish I could recreate it.
Yeah, I remember that.
Do you?
Oh,
he
yeah.
said, now Jesus, he said, I don't think you're hearing my prayer, he said. That's the way he told it. Because he'd been asking the Lord to help him to know how to come to him. And he was thinking the Lord's not hearing, is what he said, my prayer. So later on that day, he's going into Kentucky, and he comes under an overpass somewhere, and God comes in light in the pickup. Now, he's got no background in church. He doesn't know about the Damascus Road and all that thing that us religious people do, but he just told the story. He said, light filled the truck, and it so shook him, he got off as fast as he could. And he said, God began to talk to him. He didn't know God would talk to you. He said, God began to talk to him and brought him to salvation. And before that was done, the Lord told him that he and my mom were going to get married. So he finds the Lord and finds his companion from the Lord in, I don't know, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 11 minutes, in moments. So you'd have to know, I know you know Bob. So he's going down the road and he said, oh, Jesus. He said, how am I going to tell her? You're going to have to tell her. So, because they hadn't even talked about marriage, as I found out. So a day or so goes by, and Bob goes over to his house, go over to Mom's house, and he says, Mary Lee, he said, I think the Lord told me something. And my mama said, yeah, I know. We're going to be married.
Wow.
He never popped the question.
He never had to.
Never had to. Of course, he's just blown away. But from that moment, his relationship with Jesus was just as real as my relationship with you and you and me.
Right.
I mean, he lived a life that was so incredible. One of the most incredible, well, there are a lot of incredible stories I can tell, but two really incredible, the things that pop up, number 1 and 2. He managed this one car wash, and I know where it was, on the south part of Evansville.
Yeah.
And he had a great big dumpster. Now, on the weekends, the people would come and just dump out whatever's in their car and throw it in the trash can. But if the trash cans are full, they're throwing it out and running their car through the car wash, and there gets to be trash every place. Now, he knows, and this place is like, it's a real busy car wash. It's a good business, but you really got to stay with the trash. So Friday, they deliver the new dumpster, big dumpster, and they go off, and now everybody's off work. He goes out to the dumpster, and the dumpster is locked, got a padlock, and they didn't leave him a key or a note or anything. He tries to get them. There's nobody answering the phone. He said, now you just have to know Bob, and I know you did. He said, Jesus, what am I going to do? And he opened the tailgate of his truck. Now, Bob kept things that you and I would never keep. He had a big coffee can full of keys. And some of them were so old that some were even the skeleton keys. Well, they quit using skeleton keys before I was born. And I'm 69 years old. So he just had keys and keys. He took this coffee can of keys and he dumped them out on the tailgate of his truck. And he prayed. He said, Jesus, now you know where there's a key. Open this lock. I just help me to find it, Amen, or however, whatever he said, words he said exact.
Yeah.
He picked up a key, one key,
All right.
went over to the dumpster, slipped it in the lock, and unlocked the thing. What? I mean, you think about that. I used to think, what are the odds? And I don't know, I'm not a mathematical person, but maybe it's not impossible, but really?
Yeah.
He had automotive keys. He had all kind of keys. They weren't all just locked. Just keys. Anything had been a key, he'd keep it. He'd keep all kinds of things that you and I wouldn't keep.